A quick story on how Michael Jackson owned the Beatles' music. Michael Jackson's 1979 album Off the Wall has sold over 20 million albums worldwide. His 1982 album Thriller sold 70 million albums worldwide. Add in concert revenue and merchandising, and Jackson was easily worth over $100 million by 1985 when this happened. The ATV music catalog went up for sale in September 1984. 1 year later, Jackson closed the deal for $47.5 million. ATV owned the publishing company that had the rights to the entire Lennon and McCartney catalog. It's believed that in 1995, Sony purchased a 50% stake in the catalog for $110 million, providing Jackson with a quick payday of $62.5 million, but also allowing him half control of an asset worth $220 million. Sony ultimately paid $750 million for Jackson's 50% stake in 2016. Jackson's $47.5 million investment turned into an $800 million profit and the claim of owning the Beatles' music for a couple decades.
Yo, it's Big Ant, the spokesman, man. We back. Another edition of Urban Politicians TV, UPTV. Make sure you stay on your pivot at all times, man. Had to come tap in as it started to break into the news super heavy yesterday that Sony had brought half of Michael Jackson's catalog. And if you know the storyline, when it comes to certain pockets on YouTube, this is most definitely going to start playing into that conspiracy theory conversation. But I'm going to get into all the facts that went down in the deal in just a second. And what makes this a real big conversation for people who don't know is that Michael Jackson not only owned his own catalog and publishing, he owned several other very, very, very valuable catalogs, not just in rap, hip-hop, R&B, but in entertainment in general. My nigga BP, we just had a conversation. He said Michael Jackson wasn't just the king of pop. He was the king of entertainment. He was really a walking mogul and icon amongst men on this earth in the human form. And if you know, you know. And I put that clip in the beginning for Spencer Cornelia to show the little bit of the breakdown that happened with him and the Beatles and how he acquired their catalog at one point in time. And Spencer Cornelia does a lot of deep dives on different aspects in business and all types of conversations on his YouTube channel. So I had a link in the description where you can watch that in full. That was just a short right there. Now, what makes this conversation here entertaining, they getting half of it, but a lot of people don't even know that Michael Jackson owned half of Sony ATV. He had acquired so many catalogs and had so much value, and he was ahead of the curve when it came to business. He was so big on owning publishing that he would buy different people's, even when he bought Beatles from having a conversation with Paul McCartney. And there's different conversations online and interviews that you can look up to see how that went down. Supposedly, Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney was having a conversation. Hey, what would you sell your catalog for? He had threw a number out there. Well, Michael Jackson took that, went and hollered at the people, paid like $4 million to $5 million over to what he was asking for, without even telling him, like, hey, let me get that. Certain people, he got their catalogs, and to my understanding, even gave their catalogs and they publishing back to them so they can have it for themselves. But with Sony getting it now after his death, you know how everything is going to get talked about and how everything is going to get discussed. And the write-up from Billboard says this: Sony Music buys stake in Michael Jackson catalog, valuing rights at over $1.2 billion. The deal, which is likely worth at least $600 million, includes half of the late star's publishing and recorded masters catalog. And what could be the largest valuation ever of a musician's music assets, Sony Music Group has closed an agreement to buy half of Michael Jackson's publishing and recorded masters catalog in a deal that sources say valued those music assets somewhere above $1.2 billion. Other sources have suggested it might be as much as $1.5 billion at those valuations. Sony will pay at least $600 million for its stake of the legendary rights. That means that the Jackson deal, which closed late last year, is a bigger valuation than the $1.2 billion that Queen is currently seeking. And whereas the Queen valuation includes, sources say, royalties from income streams beyond the masters and publishing, including from the Freddie Mercury biopic Bohemian Rhapsody and the theatrical productions using Queen's music, Sony's deal with Michael Jackson estate does not include royalties from the Broadway play and other theatrical production featuring Jackson's music. It may not, however, just be Jackson's music that's involved in the deal. Sources say the current deal includes non-Jackson authored songs in his My Jack publishing catalog, which also includes the approximately 250 song Sly and Family Stone publishing catalog, as well as iconic songs written and or performed by Jerry Lee Lewis, Jackie Wilson, Curtis Mayfield, Ray Charles, Percy Sledge, and Dion. Last February, following a story first reported by Variety that the Jackson deal was being negotiated, Billboard estimated that the iconic artist's estate earns about $75 million annually. Those assets include ownership or master recordings, publishing for Jackson's share of his songs, his M-Jack publishing catalog, merchandise and royalties from the theatrical shows featuring Jackson's music. At the time, Billboard estimated that within the $75 million estimate, Jackson's recording and publishing assets alone brought in $47.2 million to the estate, and that the Meet Jack, and I know I'm saying that wrong, y'all, the Meet Jack might be bringing in another $5 million to $8 million annually. The Jacksons, however, did not take into account that his popularity appears to be growing as the streaming marketplace expands. Sales and streams of Jackson's music grew steadily from 1.07 million album equivalent units in 2020 to 1.47 million in 2023, up 37% over those 3 years, according to Luminate. That outpaced the overall U.S. music marketplace for album consumption units, which grew 22.9% during that time period. Outside the United States, Jackson is arguably even more popular. In 2023, consumption of his music grew 38.3% to 6.5 billion on-demand streams, up from 4.7 billion streams in 2021. Next year, a Jackson biopic called Michael will be released, likely fueling even more growth to his fan base, boosting consumption and triggering more revenue to flow to his estate and any other rights holder. Throughout the years, Sony has paid the Jackson estate more than $2 billion in some major deals that go beyond distributing royalties for his records and songs. In 1991, the company paid $100 million to buy the first half of what becomes Sony-ATV. ATV Music was the catalog that Jackson bought in 1985 that contained the Beatles catalog and other popular songs. That was merged into Sony's music publishing operation to become Sony-ATV, with Sony and Jackson each owning 50% of that company. In 2016, the company paid $750 million for the remaining 50% of Sony ATV. It also paid $287.5 million for Jackson's estate share of the consortium that owned EMI Music Publishing in 2018, as well as dividends during its ownership of those assets that came out to a total of about $1.6 billion. And now the latest deals adds another $600 million or more, driving the total amount past the $2 billion mark. And with all that being said, man, it is what it is at this point. They still got half of the catalog, Michael Jackson's estate, and his estate is being ran by his accountant and a lawyer, and the assets, to my understanding, are supposed to be distributed to the Jackson family. Now, these battles behind the scenes, I tell y'all all the time, it's three major corporate entities at the top of the music business. That's Sony, Warner Brothers, and Universal. The publishing catalog for somebody like Michael is more valuable now that he is deceased. Now, if he was still out making music, of course, that's not downplaying what Michael is. I'm just saying the money, the attention, the streams are steady going up. They got the Michael biopic about to release. They already know that's going to bring in a whole nother load because more people is getting hip. His music is growing outside of the U.S. more than it is growing here. So this most definitely was a major deal. They got half the catalog, the publishing and things like that. But his family, his estate, and his assets are still going to the Michael Jackson family. I don't know how it gets broken down between them. But buying that publishing most definitely secured his family for the future. Because if he didn't have that, didn't have the ownership of it, we know how things might have played out. Most definitely in the value that it has. Even to this day, he was able to see the future, bro. My music gonna be here for a while. That nigga was really the king of entertainment, man. Most definitely. Michael Jackson, don't compare no other artist. Don't compare what nobody else doing. They not doing that. And this is after this man is deceased, bro. League of his own, lane of his own, place of his own, entertainer of his own. Tell me what y'all think. We got more coming, more videos, all that. 1000 for shit show. Stay on your pivot.